I always thought heartbreak would feel like a slow unraveling. But mine came with a single notification and a zero balance. One text, one breath, and my world split in half. "Goodbye," he wrote. No explanation, no warning. Just that. And suddenly our bank account was empty, and so was the life I thought we built together. It didn't make sense at first. Derek was always meticulous, obsessive even, about appearances. The kind of man who double-knotted his shoes and wiped his fingerprints off water glasses. He wouldn't vanish. Not like this. Not without a show, a speech, a final insult. But silence? That terrified me more than any fight we'd ever had. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I realized I wasn't breathing. I kept refreshing the account page, hoping there was some glitch. Maybe a mistake. Maybe I clicked the wrong bank. But no. 0.00 stared back at me like a slap across the face. Our savings, my salary, gone. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. I texted, "Derek, where are you? Call me now. What the hell is going on?" No answer. My stomach turned to acid. I wasn't even angry yet. I was numb. Shock is a quiet thing. It doesn't scream. It just whispers, "This can't be real." Then I remembered the envelope. It had arrived that morning. Thick, official, the kind you don't toss aside. I had set it on the kitchen table, unopened. Addressed to both of us, but with my name in bold. Olivia Grayson, executor of the estate of William Mathers, Derek's estranged uncle, the one who hadn't spoken to him in years. It took everything in me not to tear it apart with shaking hands. I opened it carefully, like it might explode. And in a way, it did. The letter was clear. William had left Derek a sizable inheritance, but with one condition: it would be overseen by me. Me. Because even William knew Derek couldn't be trusted. He didn't even wait a day. He must have read the letter before I did. He must have known what it meant. That he couldn't touch the money without me. That someone had finally put a leash on him. So he did the only thing a coward like Derek would do. He ran. But not before, draining every last cent we had. He thought I wouldn't find out. He thought I'd be too devastated, too humiliated, to do anything but fall apart. He didn't know me at all. I sat on the floor of our kitchen, the inheritance letter in one hand, my phone in the other. One full life disappeared in an hour. One bank account emptied, one husband vanished. But something else filled the space he left behind. Not grief, not panic. Something colder. Sharper. Resolve. He wanted out? Fine. He got it. But not before I made sure he'd regret every single step he took away from me, because now I had something more powerful than love. I had motive. And I had the truth. And when you hold the truth in your hands like a weapon, sharp, heavy, undeniable, there's only one thing left to do. Cut. When I first met Derek, I thought he was the answer to a question I didn't know I was asking. Tall, composed, with that quiet confidence that made rooms slow down around him. We met at a friend's rooftop birthday party, the kind of night where the city glows like it's in love with itself. He asked if I wanted to split a cab. I said yes before he finished the sentence. He didn't kiss me that night. He waited. Waited 3 whole dates, like some kind of gentleman dinosaur in a world of swipe-right impatience. I thought that meant something. I took it as proof he respected me, that he saw me. We were opposites, sure. I was raised by chaos, moved by instinct. He was control in human form. But I needed that. Or I thought I did. He had this way of making me feel chosen. Not just wanted, but selected. Like I was some rare wine he'd been saving for a special occasion. You calm me, he once said, pulling my hand to his chest. You make the noise stop. God, I fell for that. Hard. Who doesn't want to be someone's peace? We moved in after 8 months. He handled the lease, the bills, the boring things I never questioned. I told myself that was love, that letting someone else take the wheel was a kind of trust. I was wrong, of course, but back then it felt like security. It felt like the end of the storm. Our wedding was small, classy, expensive in a don't ask how much kind of way. Lila, his sister, cried through her toast about how her big brother finally found someone good enough. I laughed it off, but looking back, that should have told me something. Like maybe I wasn't marrying a man. I was marrying a myth, a role everyone wanted to protect. We traveled, we planned, we played house like we'd invented it. And when I got promoted, at work, he celebrated like it was his own win. Everything we build, he said, clinking his glass to mine, we build together. I didn't notice the we always meant me paying and him planning. That came later. There was a time I thought I had it all. The husband, the home, the career. Even the drama was subtle. Arguments about stupid things, not betrayals. Nothing that screamed run, just little things I chalked up to stress or pride. Because a girl like me should be grateful, right? For the ring, for the illusion, for the man who never raised his voice but slowly lowered my worth. I remember the way he looked at me the night we got the keys to our new apartment. Like he was proud, like he'd won something. I thought it was love. Now I think it was possession. He didn't hold my hand. He claimed it, and I let him. There were signs, quiet ones, like how he always asked to double-check the credit card before I bought anything, or how he insisted on doing our taxes alone, said he had a system. But I wasn't stupid. I just wasn't looking. I didn't want to see. I was too busy telling everyone how lucky I was. We weren't passionate, not really, but I convinced myself passion was for unstable people. We were adults, grown-ups, and grown-ups don't chase butterflies, they manage nests, even if the nest is slowly suffocating you. Looking back, it's not that there were no red flags, it's that I painted them white and called them compromise. He never needed to hit me to break me. All he had to do was make me forget what it felt like to be powerful. And I let him. The first time I truly hesitated was over a pair of shoes. I'd bought them, on sale, with my own money, and when I came home beaming, Derek looked at the box like it was a loaded gun. We talked about spending, he said, quiet, flat, like I'd broken something sacred. I laughed, tried to shrug it off, but he didn't smile back. He just asked for the receipt. I told myself he was just practical, financially responsible. He had dreams of early retirement, he said. Building a future. But it wasn't just shoes, it became groceries, gas, even toothpaste. Everything I bought was examined, discussed, sometimes returned. I stopped buying things altogether, just to avoid the conversations. That's how it starts. Not with shouting, but with shrinking. He never said I couldn't go out. He just made it clear how inconvenient it was when I did. If I made plans, he reminded me of our budget. If I dressed up, he made a joke. Who are you looking that good for? Always with a smile. Always just a joke. Except I started dreading nights out. I started saying no before anyone asked. I noticed how easily he lied. Small lies. About emails, about what time he got home, about whether he called his mother. But his voice never changed. He could lie like he was reciting a poem. Confident, relaxed, untouchable. And when I questioned him, even gently, he'd sigh like I was accusing him of murder. I can't believe you'd think that, he'd say, and suddenly I was the problem. Gaslighting isn't loud. It's slow. It's him forgetting things he promised. It's me apologizing for misremembering. It's waking up wondering if I'm too sensitive, too controlling, too much. Until I stopped asking, stopped checking, stopped trusting myself. He hated when I talked to Grace, said she was too emotional and put thoughts in my head. What he really meant was, she saw through him. She never liked Derek, and he knew it. So he slowly pulled me away from her. Not by force, just with time, disapproval, 100 tiny nudges. And suddenly, texts went unanswered, calls declined. I became busy. And then there was Lila, sweet, soft-voiced Lila who always smiled, a little too hard and told me I was good for him. She once said, "He gets moody, but he's always been that way. You're strong enough to handle it." Like his cruelty was my responsibility. Like his moods were weather, and I was the roof that better not leak. I caught him lying about work trips more than once. Once he said he was in Chicago. His location tagged him in Miami. When I brought it up, he was calm, scary calm. "That was a layover," he said. "You really think I'm cheating?" And I hated myself for not being sure. He controlled the passwords. To everything. The accounts, the mortgage, the investment apps. "You're not into that stuff," he said. And I agreed, at first, until I realized I wasn't even allowed to look. Money wasn't ours. It was his. Control dressed as responsibility. I didn't notice I was disappearing until it was already done. I stopped wearing red. He said it was too loud. I stopped singing in the shower. He said it was childish. I stopped dreaming. Because every dream had to be approved, explained, budgeted. Eventually, I stopped calling them dreams. I called them silly ideas. The worst part? I kept defending him, to my friends, to my family, to myself. He's just stressed. He's a planner. He's not like that. But the cracks were already there. And I was the one patching them, smiling through it, holding up the mask while he lived freely behind it. He didn't have to raise his voice to silence me. He just made me question whether mine mattered at all. And that silence became my prison, until he decided to burn the whole thing down. It was a Thursday morning when everything snapped. I'd just poured coffee, still in pajamas, when I saw the notification from the bank. It said our joint savings account was overdrawn. I blinked, refreshed the app. Thought maybe I was logged into the wrong account. But no, it was ours. 37,406 gone. I felt cold. Not scared, not sad. Cold. Like my blood stopped circulating. I opened the transactions. The money was transferred in 3 waves, small enough to avoid fraud detection, fast enough to drain everything in under 12 hours. And each transfer went to the same unfamiliar account name, D. Grayson Holdings. I texted him immediately. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type. "What is this? Where is our money?" I tried to stay calm, but inside, I was crumbling. A full decade of savings, erased, no warning, no fight, just theft. And then, like a final slap, his reply buzzed onto the screen. "Goodbye." That was it. No explanation, no apology, no reason. Just goodbye. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was an execution. The death of everything I thought I knew about my husband, about our marriage, about myself. I ran to the bedroom, hoping, praying he was still there. That maybe this was a mistake. A prank. Some insane misunderstanding. But the closet was half empty. His suitcase was gone. His shaving kit, his passport. He'd been planning this. For weeks. Maybe months. On the kitchen table, beside the wilted flowers he never remembered to water, sat the letter. William's inheritance letter. The one that said I had been named executor. That Derek would only access the money through my discretion. I opened it fully this time, read every word, and felt my stomach turn to ash. He knew. He'd seen it. Maybe even opened it before I had. He must have realized what it meant, that he couldn't touch the inheritance without my approval. So instead of talking to me, instead of facing the reality, he robbed me. And ran. I called Lila, shaking. She answered on the second ring, voice too bright, too ready. "Olivia," she said, "you should let him go. He was never happy." I couldn't breathe. "You knew?" I asked. Silence. Then, "He didn't want to fight. He said you'd make it hard." That was the moment everything changed. It wasn't just Derek. It was everyone who enabled him. Everyone who looked at my life and decided I should be the one to bend. I sat on the cold floor, inheritance letter in my lap, bank app open on my phone. My heart split open like a crime scene. I wasn't just humiliated. I was discarded. Like an inconvenience. A vault he couldn't unlock. But he made one mistake. He left the key behind, and I was done being quiet. For the first time in years, I screamed. Not words, just sound. Raw, feral, unfiltered. I didn't even recognize my own voice. It came from somewhere deep, deeper than sadness, deeper than rage. It wasn't about the money. It was about the erasure of my love, my labor, my trust. I didn't leave the apartment for 3 days. Curtains drawn, phone off, dishes in the sink. I stopped eating, stopped showering. I was afraid that if I stood up, I'd shatter. That grief would leak out of me like blood. I kept thinking, how do you lose someone who's still alive? Friends texted. Grace even came by once, knocking softly, but I couldn't answer. I was ashamed of being fooled, of defending him, of giving so much to someone who saw me as an obstacle instead of a partner. What does that make me? A fool? A victim? Or just invisible? At night, I'd scroll back through our photos. Try to find it, the moment he stopped loving me. But the truth was harder. I don't think he ever did. Not really. I was useful, loyal, predictable. And when I stopped being those things, I became disposable. That's the cruelty of narcissists. They don't break up. They discard. The worst part wasn't losing the money. It was realizing I never actually had a marriage. I had a performance. One where I played the devoted wife, and he played the man who deserved her. I gave him everything. He left me with nothing. Not even a reason. Lila blocked me when I demanded answers. Grace begged me to lawyer up. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I didn't want justice. I wanted to bleed. To feel the depth of the betrayal until it hollowed me out completely. Because only when something is fully empty can you decide what to fill it with. And in that black hole of silence, something else started to grow. Not hope, not yet, but fury. Hot, clean, and absolute. The kind of rage that doesn't burn. It sharpens. I wasn't crying anymore. I was calculating, remembering, rewinding every conversation, every doubt I silenced, every gut instinct I buried. He didn't break my heart. He dismantled my reality. And that's so much worse. I looked in the mirror one night and barely recognized myself. Pale, hollow-eyed. But then I saw something new. A crack in the glass. Not from damage, but from pressure. The pressure of someone who had finally been pushed too far. This wasn't heartbreak. It was awakening. And he had no idea what kind of storm he'd set in motion. I finally stood up. The first step was calling the bank. "We need to trace every wire," I said, voice steady. They told me there's a paper trail. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I was done drifting in the dark. If he thought he could vanish, he had another thing coming. I stared at the inheritance letter again. I was executor. That gave me power, legal authority. I started drafting an email to the bank and to a lawyer. Terms like fraud, joint account, unauthorized transfer. Words that had power. Words he'd long beaten out of my voice. I just smiled. Because he had no idea. Grace was back before I even knew I needed her. She brought coffee, files, determination. "Let's find him," she said, "and peel back every layer." And we did. Uncovered hidden accounts, shell corporations, forged signatures, D names everywhere. Derek Grayson was running, but his name was plastered over every step he took. The inheritance clause was our golden ticket. The estate lawyer confirmed. No guardrails meant Derek would need court approval to touch a cent. We drafted motions. We froze the inheritance funds. I watched Derek's empire implode in spreadsheets. It wasn't vengeance. It was accountability. Then I did the hardest thing. Calling Lila again. This time, I was ready. Calm. Fierce. "Help me understand," I said. She tried her deflections, but cracks appeared. She knew about the account names. She stood there at the window, voice shaking like me on that floor, but hers with guilt. I recorded every word. Every admission. Every shift in tone. She said things she didn't intend to. She admitted Derek was always in trouble, that she'd covered for him, that she knew he would run, but couldn't stop him. Moral complicity. That's all it took. We filed the lawsuit. We informed the bank. We closed shell accounts. Derek was officially on the run from the law, and me. I agonized over whether to post publicly. But we held back. Let the legal system do the work. Let the truth speak louder than my anger. I watched the inheritance funds move into a protected trust. I had to sign documents. I sat in an office in a suit, something I never wore before, signing in black ink. It felt surreal. I was no longer the woman who needed someone else's permission. I was the architect of justice. He thought I'd be crushed. He thought I'd vanish. But I stood upright, took command. And in that moment, I realized something crucial. I was never the victim he chose. I was the reckoning he never saw coming. The moment the court granted the freeze order, I printed it out and taped it to our kitchen wall. Right where his favorite espresso machine used to sit. A monument to the fact that he didn't win. He disappeared. But I was the one who controlled what he wanted most, his inheritance. I hired a forensic accountant, best money I ever spent. She found offshore transfers, cryptocurrency funnels, and a pattern. He'd been planning this for at least a year. But here's the twist. Every fraudulent move he made after the inheritance letter, I had legal oversight, which meant I could reverse them. I leaked nothing. Not yet. I wanted him to feel safe, to think I'd folded. Lila tried to reach out again. Panicked. This time. "He didn't mean to hurt you," she said. I told her. "He didn't hurt me. He liberated me." She didn't understand. She was still living in the lie. Grace helped me craft the email. Short, sharp, sent to Derek's last known address. "Your inheritance is frozen. Your name is under investigation for financial fraud and identity theft. I am no longer your wife. I'm your legal problem." I imagined his face reading it, the panic, the disbelief. Then I went public. Not with drama, but with documentation. I posted a thread titled, "When your husband drains your bank account and runs, but you're the executor of his inheritance." Screenshots. Redacted names. Dates. Transactions. A quiet expose. It went viral in hours. I didn't name him, But people connected dots. Former colleagues, college friends, even an ex-girlfriend messaged me. He did something similar to me. I never had proof. Until now. The weight of their silence lifted me. I wasn't alone. He wasn't careful. And now, he was exposed. Within a week, his reputation was shredded. His business clients dropped him. 2 lawsuits were filed. One from me, one from another defrauded woman. Lila deleted all her socials. Grace threw a party with champagne and a playlist titled Men Who Fumble Inheritances. The final blow came in the form of a rejection. The inheritance trust, with me as executor, could choose to disperse or deny funds for unethical behavior. I denied every cent, not out of revenge, out of principle. That money would go to charities his uncle supported. In Derek's name, he emailed me once more. From a burner. "You've destroyed me," he wrote. "Please stop." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. He left me, but he didn't break me. The silence after justice is different. It doesn't echo. It exhales. My apartment feels bigger now, even though it's the same size. His scent is gone. His shadow, too. I took down our wedding photo last week. Behind it was a small crack. In the wall, probably from when we hung it. I left it there. A reminder. People kept asking me if I felt closure. The answer is no. I didn't get closure. I got freedom. Closure is passive. Something you wait for. Freedom is something you rip from the wreckage and claim. And I claimed mine. In ink. In court. In truth. The inheritance was distributed to causes I believed in. Women's shelters, financial abuse recovery programs, scholarships for women in law. I didn't keep a cent. Not because I'm noble, but because I didn't want anything tainted with his name. I made that money powerful in a way he never could. I reconnected with Grace, with myself. I started painting again. Something I'd stopped because Derek once said, "Art's for people who don't have real jobs." Now my living room is filled with canvas and color. Messy, loud, mine. I still have nights where I double-check locks, where I wake up sweating from dreams of accounts disappearing. Trauma leaves fingerprints, but they're fading. And in their place, new truths, stronger truths. I'm not broken. I'm reassembled. One day I got a call from a reporter. She wanted to write a piece on financial betrayal and emotional abuse. She asked if she could quote me. I said yes, because my silence was once his shield. Not anymore. Sometimes I think about the version of me he thought he'd left behind. The scared one. The quiet one. She's gone. What's left is someone sharper, someone louder, someone who knows her own worth and doesn't wait for someone else to validate it. He said I calmed him, that I made the noise stop. But in the end, I became the noise, the storm, the truth he tried to outrun. And now I walk with my head high, with my accounts protected. My circle smaller, my boundaries, steel. He thought I'd disappear. But I became his biggest regret.